Hey everyone, welcome to my new series on adding clays to melt and pour soap. We're going to explore all kinds of clays and why would you add them to melt and pour soap and how much and a variety of other things. Why, what do they do? What do clays do for your soap? And all kinds of fun things. So we're kicking off this series with a very, very popular clay for soaps, and that is rose kaolin clay. Why are we starting with that one? Because it is so popular. One of the biggest reasons it is so popular is the color. It's gorgeous. It's a really lovely pink, and you can get a variety of shades of pink, not only depending on the brand you buy, but also what you add. You can lighten the color. You can, depending on the type of soap you're adding it to. If you add it to clear, you can get quite a rich, dark pink, almost a brick red. Um, and you'll see by the end of this if you add some titanium dioxide, or if you're using a soap that perhaps already has titanium dioxide in it, like a goat's milk or something along those lines, then you're gonna, or you can end up with a nice, lovely pale pink. It's a very makes a very visually beautiful soap. So what you just saw me adding, at least I hope you just saw it, is a little bit of geranium essential oil, just a tiny bit. I didn't want to go haywire crazy with scents, but I did want to add a little bit of fragrance. I'm keeping these soaps as natural as I can for my own purposes and who these soaps are for. So it is a detergent-free base, and I'm only adding natural fragrances. And I'm also going kind of cautious with those. You always have to be cautious with essential oils and check what the IFRA standards tell you. And remember that you don't always want to go with the maximum that they tell you. If you see me looking at the instructions for my fast melt, that's me just pointing out, please make sure to read your instructions. I am using that today, and I will be focusing a little bit on that as I'm going through this whole series. It was quite a convenient thing for me to be able to melt a lot of soap for this project, because I'm making a lot of soaps. Um, and I will change it out when I switch. I clean it out when I as I switching different soap base types, because I will be using a variety of soap types, all detergent free, and all crafter's choice. I'll tell you that. That's not, I'm not an affiliate of theirs at this point in time, but, I love their soaps, particularly, their crystal clear is what I typically use for my art soaps, and for projects like these, I love the detergent-free soaps. They're a great option for those who don't want, detergents in their soap. So, and I will say this, their soaps with detergents, it's quite a mild detergent, even though it gives you really lovely bubbles. It's not harsh. So that being said, we're going with this is I put somewhere, I don't know if it was in this video or another one. I put that it's the detergent free clear ish. It's been sitting around a while. Typically soap doesn't go bad. I don't care who says it. um, I would disagree with them. It could go bad if you added something to it. But what happened with mine is it's just not super clear anymore. You will see that it's a bit yellowed. That's it. It doesn't smell. It's not, the oils don't go rancid because it's not a super fatted soap, which means there's more oil in it than has saponified. But that's not the case with this. I don't believe there is a melt and pour with that is super fatted. I could be wrong on that, but not the ones I'm using for this. And so the oil going rancid would be the only thing that I could even imagine the soap going bad. Anyway, it's been sitting around for a while, and another great reason to use it in all of these soaps. It's the perfect opportunity for detergent-free soaps. So I'm not going to go super, super instructional here, other than right now what you see me doing. If we're caught up, because visually I may not be seeing what you're seeing at the same time. Um, but I am kind of doing a preview of the next in the series because I was just making them at the same time, sort of. So uh, it's a Rasool clay. So that's I've just kind of um, was measuring it out and adding a little bit of my essential oils to it and letting it kind of soak in for a moment. So what you're seeing now is I'm hoping is the rose clay. And if you saw the text I put up, it's 4 tablespoons. That's a lot of clay. And I will say in this particular soap, I did not push the boundaries on the amount of additives that I can use with the clay because I'm using the Crafter's Choice and their range of additives is 5 to 6%, which is higher than most of the brands um, recommend for theirs. They recommend 5 to 6% at the top. Now, if you're using oils, and they're very clear on this in their instructions, if you're using that much oil, you're very likely to cause problems and by losing lather. It won't ruin it. It will still be a soap, but you're not going to get bubbles much anyway for a lather or a bubbly soap because it's going to deteriorate that lather. Um, and typically, you don't need to add oils to melt and pour soap. I was going to say detergent free, um, but you don't need to add oils to that. We will be testing that in the future, by the way, way down the road. But right now, I'm testing the clays and I'm pushing the boundaries. 4 tablespoons is a lot. That is equal, I believe, that was equal to 5% or 5.4%, something like that. It was close to that. Gave me a little bit of wiggle room to work with, a tiny bit of essential oil that I added, and I added some titanium dioxide that was dispersed in glycerin. So I'm basically really pushing that 6% boundary when it comes down to it. That's not really the point of the experiment. The point of the experiment is how much clay can you add. But um, I'm starting off pretty high. I believe you can probably push it even further with some clays, but would you want to? That's going to be a question we answer at the end of the series because I'm going to do at the end of the series, we're going to do a lather test and skin feel test and talk about why you may or may not want to add more than the typical teaspoon. Um, of course, if you're looking at it as I want to add this as a colorant, I'm looking to use it for a natural colorant because that's what a lot of people do. Um, then you kind of have to look at what you want the shade to look like, and then also use your senses of what it feels like, and is it still soap? Can you make it as dark red as I made it? And will it still be a soap? Will it set up? Will it lather? All those kinds of questions. And some of those will be answered today and some will not because, like I said, I did not do the lather test on screen here today. Um, let's talk about rose kaolin clay for a few minutes. And while you see me just kind of stirring it in, you have to, with clay, backing up a little bit. With clay, you have to stir like crazy. You have to mush. You have to mush the lumps out. Creating a slurry is the best thing, which is what I was doing when you saw me stirring and mushing around in that little tiny silicone cup. We're going to also explore different ways to add it. Today, I just added a little bit of the essential oil and kind of fluffed it in, get it kind of incorporated. It really was just still a dry clay. It absorbed it pretty well. But then I made my slurry out of soap, out of hot melted soap, which depending on your soap, you may not want to do. If you have a particularly high melt soap, um, it's going to set up on you too fast to do that, most likely. So this is a very low melt soap. Not only is it crafter's choice, which tends to run at a melting point of between 120 and 125, but it's a detergent free soap on top of that. So that makes that it's going to be on the lower side of that melting point. Um, keeping that in mind when you're using a fast melt or any type of soap melter, you want to really keep close tabs on that temperature. I did that. I did not include a lot of that in the filming of this because it was already going to be a long video and I didn't want to you just sitting there watching me take temperatures. But when the soap is not quite melted, but close to melting, you can turn the machine off. And then when you go to dispense, that spout is heated. So when if it's starting to cool off in the spout, just turn it on for a quick second and it will heat right back up. I promise you the soap inside there will not cool off um, fast at all. It keeps it warm for quite a while. But I sometimes turn it off before it gets to the hold cycle because um, it's a lower melt soap, lower temp. Okay, so you see me pouring back and forth here. You see the little pitcher that had a smaller amount that I added the titanium dioxide to. I probably added a little bit too much, more than what I wanted to, but it worked fine. I will give you a spoiler alert right here. It did set up. It does become a soap. It becomes a beautiful, beautiful soap. So that much I will give you. We will lather test, and you will learn a little bit more about the lather of it. In several weeks when we get this all put together. But I'm having fun with the design, creating some thin pour type layers, um, just to kind of explore. I will with some of the other clays, I'm probably going to try doing an acorn swirl with clays, different color clays, and I don't know. I may even do at the end. I was thinking of doing a landscape video. A landscape soap um, using all clays, different clay colorants. I thought that'd be kind of fun. So that's something to look forward to in the future. Hopefully, I'm looking forward to it. So back to kaolin clay. There are many types of kaolin clay, and in general, that is a very soft, fine grain type of clay that is a bit more gentle than some of the other clays that are formed. It's more gentle because it does not absorb quite as much liquid or oils, water or oils, as some of the other types of clay. So, therefore, it's more suitable for drier skin. So, what makes rose kaolin clay, different from other types of kaolin clay? Why is it pink? It's pink because it contains iron oxide. And that's one of the reasons you'll find different shades of rose kaolin clay is because they come from different deposits around the world. Um, the amount of iron oxide is going to be part of what determines how red or how pink that clay is. Editing Terry here to remind you that while for centuries rose clay has been used for mild cleansing, gentle exfoliation, firming your skin, and providing a feel of elasticity, it is not a wise idea to use that as marketing for your soaps, at least in the US. You might want to say that this soap contains rose clay, which has been used as a natural colorant, provides hardness to the bar, and provides a little bit of slip and a wonderful lather. Be cautious with how you talk about what rose clay will do for your skin. If you say anything at all, say that rose clay has been known to, and then list the attributes. The iron oxide in it is supposedly moisturizing as well, but just make sure you're not saying your bar of soap does that. You can say this bar of soap is suitable for normal to dry skin. This rose clay is quite a dark rose, so it has a lot of iron oxide in it. And I added 4 tablespoons. That really makes it dark. Another thing that's going to keep it dark is if you're putting it into soap that is clear. If you put it into goat's milk soap, if you put it into buttermilk, or any of the white soaps, which I'm going to be doing something with argan oil at some point, argan oil soap, Moroccan, beautiful, beautiful soap base, but it's not pure white, but it's quite opaque and it's kind of off white. Great soap base, but it wouldn't give me this dark of a pink because it's a white base. So that would automatically give you a paler base. As you saw, I added titanium dioxide to the smaller pitcher there, and it's barely pink. It's a lot more white than it is pink. Probably added a little too much, but it didn't keep it from becoming a soap, so I guess it really wasn't too much. Um, I do have a little bit of a meat soap look going on here, but it ends up being really pretty in the long run. I have, spoiler alert, I think I mentioned this earlier. I have tested this soap a little bit. I've got, I always pull one aside for myself. If I'm making enough of something, especially if it's an experiment, sort of like this is. And it's definitely a soap. One of the other benefits of adding clays to soap is it hardens. It helps a bar to harden quite nicely. Some of the soap bases that are detergent free and have really cool, neato ingredients already added to them. Um, the one that comes to mind is the Baby Bee Buttermilk soap. That one is, to me, kind of a softer soap. I don't know if it's because it's detergent free or the addition of the milk, um, or what it is. There's a lot of nice ingredients in that one. So I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's not a super hard soap. It's a little on the softer side. And the clay does make a difference. Now, when you first create the soap, when you're first pouring it into the mold and it sets up, clay soaps take longer to set up. Also, detergent free soaps do. So if you're doing a detergent free clay soap, leave it alone. Don't try to unmold it when you normally would unmold a soap. My opinion, leave it for 24 hours, then unmold it. I unmolded this one um, earlier than that, and it was okay to unmold, but I could tell I had to be very careful or I was going to leave a lot of dents in the soap. Um, and when I came back to get myself a bar, I let them sit overnight in a Ziploc bag. And when I came back in to my workshop to get one for me, because I wanted to see what they were like the next day, um, really nice hard bar. Really, really solid. So that's another benefit of adding clay to your soaps. As we get to other types of clays, we'll talk about things like slip for shaving. That can be a wonderful thing. This one, I'll tell you right now, one of the benefits is it does help fragrance hold. It kind of anchors it into the soap. That's one of the reasons I put the essential oil into the clay a bit first. Even though I knew it couldn't create a slurry because I can't add that much fragrance oil to it, I wanted it to really kind of ground in uh, with the clay and help get it sort of absorbed by some of that so that it would help anchor the fragrance. And did it ever? Oh boy. um I added so little. It was less than 0.5%. I don't even know. It was a tiny percent. um but it smells lovely. Really nice, strong smell to it. And it will keep it around for longer. As many of you know, essential oils don't tend to hang around well in soaps. But if you're wanting that essential oil fragrance to stick around, adding some clay can really help that. Help it stick into the soap for longer because it absorbs oil. So it's going to keep and maintain the essential oils for longer than just by themselves. Of course, you still want to be aware of adding your essential oils at a lower temperature because they can be very volatile, some of them. And that way, that means they're going to dissipate kind of quickly, and you won't have that fragrance lasting. So I'm being very, very careful here with the unmolding, like I said, because it's going to be kind of soft at first, and I really didn't want dense. And I could have left it the whole day and come back the next day, but I really didn't want to. I didn't really have time. So, but I'm cutting it. You'll see in a moment that I'm going to be cutting it with an Uncle Andy's, and yeah, it cuts through just fine. It's not gelatinous in the middle. It's actually set up. It's just soft. And a day later, it was, wasn't quite as hard as a brick, but it was harder than my regular soaps. So that was kind of nice to see. Um, as you see, 4 tablespoons is not too much to make a soap. It's not too much for it to set up and um, become a block of something. Is it like a block of clay? We'll find out when we do the lather test. Um, but it didn't keep it from solidifying, and that's some of the fear that some people have when you start talking about adding a bunch of additives, because some of them will prevent a soap from properly setting up, and you'll just get kind of a mushy stuff that doesn't set up. So our next test will be, like I said, at the end when I do the lather test. And I'll also let you know how it makes my skin feel. May be different from yours because, we're all different, and how a soap feels on our skin is going to be different as well. I'm in the cut. I am going to try to do, like I said, a little bit of design work with these just because I have a hard time just pouring a plain soap. Although I do make just plain soap bars with clay, but I really like making a design for, especially for a video. It's just more fun that way. Um, but um, I'm not going to, for this whole clay series that I'm doing, I'm not going to create my um light box picks that I usually do at the end. I'm just not. I probably will for the last video, the one wrapping up the series when I do the lather tests and all that good stuff. I'll probably give you some, um, hopefully, some really neat pictures. But I will bring these once I get them cut. I will bring them up close to the camera so you can get a better look at the design that happened. I think they came out really cool. The top was my favorite. I think the top came out really, really cool. You can, with detergent-free soap, you can get away with a little bit of swirling. It does last longer on in a liquid form, so you gotta be really careful that it just doesn't all swirl and blend into a non-swirl. Um, but I got, because I poured very tiny amounts at a time and kind of slung it back and forth, I did get a really kind of a thin layers pour, um, as much as you can get a thin layers pour with melt and pour. Um, but I didn't do it along the side. That's a cold process thing that we will explore in the future. But with this one, we got kind of that volcano look. That's what I call it. I don't know. It just looks like a volcano erupting. As I bring them up closer, you will also see, I think I show myself doing it here. I cut these in half. I'm making smaller bars with these because these are for a specific project I'm doing. And they're going to be about 4 ounces, maybe a little bit less, maybe 3.5 ounces a bar, because they are pretty thick slices. So they're close to 8 ounces. They're probably more like 7.5 for the full bar, something like that. So we'll find out when I actually weigh them, which I did not do yet, which means they are also not wrapped. But I'm cutting them in half. They make a really cute little bar that fits well in most people's hands. And as you see, it cuts pretty easily and is a chunk of something. we'll find out if it's soap down the road. You see on the screen there. You're kind of getting a spoiler. Like I said, I did these both at the same time. So you see a spoiler of the next soap there. We'll talk more about the clay I used and what the little brown chunks at the bottom are and what the kind of clear stuff you'll see at the top is. And we'll have some fun with that on the next one. Um, as always, please leave your questions in the comments. I try to answer them all. If I don't answer them, if you see one that's just not answered, I didn't see it because I do look and I am notified with comments, but every once in a while, my YouTube channel dashboard will get a little funky and not tell me there's um, a comment. It's worse on the replies. So if you reply to something, if I reply to your comment and then you reply back, I don't always see it. But I look for them, so I try to answer them all. And most of you know where to find me somewhere on Facebook if you can't get a hold of me through here and have a question. I like it to be asked on the video itself because then the others watching the video can also benefit from the question and the answer to that. And hopefully, I can help as many people as possible. This was super fun to make, and I'm hoping that you got something from this. Clays are tricky to work with. Like I said, the mushing of the lumps is a thing. It's a really difficult process, and we're going to be playing with different things to add. We're going to try glycerin. We're going to try water. We're going to try water and glycerin. We're going to try oil. We're going to do a variety of things to incorporate the clay. Well, thanks for checking out my Clays in Melt and Pour Soap series and I hope I can help you learn to put glaze in your soap. Thank you so much. Bye.